everyone. I'm Preeti Ars, the Literary Festival Director for the Indo-American Arts Council, a not-for-profit located in New York City. Welcome to the 2022 edition of our Literary Festival. IAAC is dedicated to celebrating and showcasing the arts in North America. The Literary Festival is in its 8th edition and showcases writers who bring stories of the Indian experience to the world. The festival runs from November 7th through the 13th, with virtual sessions taking place November 7th through the 11th, and in-person events on November 12th and 13th at the Kalem Galleries in New York City. The series of online events are hosted on IAAC's Facebook and YouTube channels each night from November 7th to the 11th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The full schedule with dates, times, and authors is available on our website, iaac.us. We hope that you enjoy hearing from these authors, and thank you again for your interest and support.
Good evening. My name is Sarika, and I am the team member of Executive Team for Indo-American Arts Council. We want to thank you for joining us today and welcome you to this evening's discussion panel on Indian cooking and culture. We are very excited to share with you the works and insights of these esteemed authors. This evening, joining us are Asma Khan, author of Ammu, Indian Home Cooking to Nourish Your Soul. Asma is an Indian-born British chef, restaurateur, and a cookbook author. She owns Darjeeling Express restaurant in London's Covent Garden, and her kitchen is all-women kitchen. She was also profiled on the 6th season of documentary series Chef's Table on Netflix. Our next guest is Vikas Khanna, author of Sacred Foods of India. He's a Michelin star chef, restaurateur, cookbook writer. He has also worked with top chefs like Gordon Ramsay and John George. He's also a filmmaker and a humanitarian. His directorial debut, The Last Color, was released at 71st Cannes Film Festival. He has been an important part of IAAC team. Moderating the panel discussion this evening is Barkha Cardoz. Barkha is a managing member of Cardoz Legacy, honoring Floyd Cardoz and his legacy. She is also the woman behind FC Masala line with Burlap and Barrel. We hope you enjoy the discussion. Thank you for joining us. Over to you, Barkha.
Hello and welcome to a conversation with chefs Asma Khan and Vikas Khanna. They both need no introductions as we all know them so well. They've been in our homes, in our kitchens, and on our TV screens. So let me just get right to the conversation about their books and life. Asma, I would love to start with you. Your book, Ammu, Indian Home Cooking to Nourish the Soul. You wrote this during COVID in honor of your mom and her food. Could you please tell us and our viewers about it?
I always had this book in me, and I always thought, I will write this book at some point because, I learned so much from my mother. It wasn't just my mother. I wanted to honor every South Asian mother, this word nourishing was very important for me to also put it in the title because they don't feed us. They nourish us. I mean, none of us remember going to our dadi's house or our nani's house or an aunt's house, or even, the poorest person's house, who will always give you something to eat. There was no question of leaving without eating. And I always wanted to kind of dedicate a book and talk about my mother. I have to say, COVID was a game changer. The borders came down and, friends, Barkha, unfortunately, you know this very well as well. People started, passing away, people who I knew in my own family, members of my family. I got really scared because I realized that this book will never happen if it's a memoir. It has to be in her lifetime. I prayed for that time when I could see her again, hug my mother and give her this book. So it became almost like a mannat for me, a kind of thing that I was praying for. I will write this book, it'll be printed, and I will take it and hand it to my mother. So it became almost this obsession. And I literally sat and wrote this over 21 nights. I wrote this in that silence when I lost my business, I lost all my money, I lost hope, because this was when we didn't know what was COVID. We didn't know why people were dying. There was no PPE in this country. There were no masks. We were all struggling. And people talk about the vaccine as if, I'd never heard of a vaccine that came out so soon. So I had no idea that we didn't know when this would end. For me, all I could see was my mother's face. And that's how I wrote this book. And this is why I wrote this book. It was written not out of fear, but actually out of optimism of that moment of when I would give it to her. There's a lot of joy in that book, even though what was driving it was fear. But it was a positive story because I imagined myself every night seeing her, giving her the book.
So it's so beautiful because you're expressing what we all felt at that point, helpless, but yet at the same time, you took this upon yourself, and strangely and beautifully, our moms always show up for us, right? When we need them the most. And she showed up even in that space with the distance, giving you that hope and giving you something to do. And she nourished your soul even then from a distance. So, wow. It's not just a cookbook. It's a lifeline for you, lifeline for her, and for all of us sitting around saying, at that point, where were we going? And I'm so glad you got to do that. And I just hope everybody cherishes it, not just another cookbook, but the emotions that come with it, the nourishing of the soul that comes with it. And congratulations on it.
Thank you.
Vikas, I'm going to go to you now. 38 cookbooks and still going. And wow. I watched someone that I knew very closely write too, and we were ready to get divorced. So 38 books going down is amazing. I want to touch on the last book that I have heard of and I have seen pictures of, Sacred Foods of India. To me, as an Indian growing up in India, worshiping, respecting, seeing different cultures and their religious feelings and their religious nuances, to see this, that you have spent 8 years putting this book together, doing food from different places of how our religious communities have gotten together and done the simplest of foods, but I think they are the most important because they touch not just your palate and your stomach, but they also fulfill that feeling of being complete because it's an offering and it's so sacred. Could you talk about that? Could you tell us what your mindset was when you went about to do this book, and also more about what it's done for you and for people that have had access to it? Because I also, before I give you the space to do that, it's one of the first digital productions where there's so much access available to it in such different forms, and to put all this together must have been such an undertaking. So can you tell us about it?
So what Asma used the word nourish, it's a much bigger word than serving food. Nourish is also satiation of soul. Nourish is a much bigger word than appetite or feeding people. So I grew up in Amritsar, and from the back of my mind, I always knew that there's something very sacred when people, communities come together. And I grew up in the same city for 16 years, never went out. Our only holiday used to be to Kolkata, where Bhua used to be there, my father's. And for me, going to the Mother Teresa's kitchen there, or to go to Ajmer Sharif and to understand, and to go to other parts of South India and to understand that it's not restricted to a certain faith. this is the DNA of the country. That how we figured out that within the poverty also there was so much of richness. That I felt that there was something much bigger to be told as a story. So I do not know if you remember in 2009 there was a shooting in a Gurdwara in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was in touch with the people at the White House, and I said, we would love you to tell the story of Sikhs. And I'm like, I'm not qualified to be telling story of communities because, if it was food, and they said, why can't we do one thing in my team there? Why can't we tell the story of a community through food? And that was amazing because we talked about the story of Sikhism through the idea of Guru Nanak Dev Ji is Sacha Sauda. And it was really so appropriate. It was the birth of my biggest thing which happened to me at that time was called Holy Kitchens. It was a documentary series. And this book, Sacred Foods of India, came as an extension of the Holy Kitchen. Then I did a thing called Moon of Eid, where I talked about the entire month of Ramadan, that it is not what you eat, it is your neighbor being nourished. So the ideology fell through the entire subject. And for years, it was a part of the package of that me telling a story of India through the communities and how they share food. Of course, we are talking so much now about modernizations and Michelin stars, but Asma knows that more than anyone else. Our foundation lies in those humble roots, that way we start from those. And these are not the complicated, over-the-top, multi-course dishes. These are the simple pots which have nourished us for generations and centuries. They got us through all this pain and all through what we go through. Food is such a big support system for us. So that is when this book came to life. And I had the publishing deals from some publishers around the world. But I wanted to do a book where I could set up a benchmark of a $50,000 cookbook. I don't know why. Because everybody was looking down upon the idea. Yeah, that's why not. But I said, if you're doing a book which represents such richness of faith, food, people, cuisines come together, and history. So we need to document this book in a way which people have never seen, with rare jewels, gold gilding, boxes made out of sandalwood. And that is when it took us a long time with Vedic Cosmos, who only do religious books, that they said, this project is really resonates with us. Showcasing the true diversity of India lies in all these homes, temples, gurdwaras, monasteries, Mother Teresa's kitchens, synagogues. And somehow in India, the formation of religion changes, takes a whole different shape, that it becomes so much about feeding on the grassroots level. And you see from the midday meals, so everybody is trying to do something that they make a stronger community through cooking for people. And I see that, because I'm so traveled, it restricts us in many countries. Of course, the laws and everything. But in India, it flows so openly and seamlessly. It crosses the borders of people's faith and everything. And I feel that was the birth of Sacred Foods of India. And it took us a long time to understand why do we want to project a book on that magnitude scale. It's also we are connecting to the next generation. We are growing a generation which is becoming westernized way too sooner than we even think about. And we all are witnesses of it, right? So to tell our children the story of richness, I wanted to do a book which looks like a real work of art. It looks like a holy book. If you see the book, if you've seen it. And just to touch the book and just to touch the gold gilding on sides. And I know that's not content. I understand. The content is what is the recipes and the stories of these people, and starting from Kheer Bhavani Temple in Kashmir and moving through that whole segment of East, West, North, South. But मुझे लगता है कि if we are showcasing the richness, it also people equate that to the opulence of the project too.
That's amazing. And I am so proud. I am so proud that you've taken on something like that. And like I said, why not? Why not? Why shouldn't we? Because as a culture, as a country, as people, we are so rich. And why not stand tall and showcase that the best we can? And I'm so thankful to you for doing that, because like you said, I want the next generation, my children, and the kids that come to know where they come from and to be so proud of it. And if we don't do it for them and we don't set the table for them, how are they going to know? So thank you. Thank you for doing that. I am going to ask you one more question, Asma. I'm sorry, I have to ask him one more, and then I have lots of questions for you. Barefoot Empress.
Yeah.
The documentary. Where does that come
I just
from?
hear the name and I start choking.
Where does that come from?
Bravo. Pain. It starts from pain, severe pain. That's what I feel. Because our grandmothers were mostly illiterate, right? Many of our grandmothers, yes. But they were the most intelligent in the family.
Oh my God, tell me about it. I remember my daddy. Yes.
Somebody tweeted to me. I just shared the cover of it.
So. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Can you hold it a little closer so we can see this? So is this our first glance at it?
Yeah, I just posted the cover just a few minutes ago. So it's a documentary. So somebody tweeted to me in 2018 saying that we have an unusual story happening in Chepar on a tweet. And Chef, we know you love these kind of stories, that we have a student in school. She is 96 years old. I don't know what touched me. And I said, you know what? I need to find a way to go and see her. So I fly from New York to Kochi. I drive 6 hours to go to Chepar to find that the school was closed. And then I figured out.
Did you not check the school calendar?
You know, there was nothing like that. There's no information online, and it was a Tuesday, so I thought, you know, I might be able to see Amma. But it was great because we went to her house, and she was studying.
Oh,
96
amazing.
years old, and I fell in love with her. And because I speak little Kannada, I don't speak Malayalam. I can understand. I can understand little Tulu also because I had a lot of my years spent in South India. But I fell in love with her. She had such a resilience, and she said something that women. I said, "Why are you doing this?" And something had shocked her in a system with Sabrimala Temple, where she said that the women are considered inferior because they don't even want to give a chance to women to prove how strong they are. I'm like, this is a much bigger story than we can imagine. Why is she going to school? I followed her life for 4 years, and she stood first in grade 1 in Kerala in 40,000 students. And it is an unusual story, and the documentary is so beautiful. And we had hours and hours of footage of her going to school and understanding. In the end, she gives us a definition of true meaning of religion and God. And that is where the movie stops. I'm like, holy God. And I don't speak that language, but I know I get very emotional when I speak about Kartiani Amma. And I've never seen a woman like that. In the end, she says that it's okay if you stop us from entering God's home, but God enters my home every day.
Wow.
How do you stop that? How do you stop that? And how do you define that? In every form, it's God coming in light and sunlight, in winds, in blossoms. He is welcome here. In the end, the way she nods, I get goosebumps. And you know, when I'm making movies, you have to see them 3,000 times before you edit a scene. Every time we saw that scene, me and my producer, Doug Rowland. So because it was a COVID film, so everything was happening offline and on Zoom calls, editing. I cried every time she says that he comes to my home every day.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful.
So that's why I feel the story is so important and quintessential right now, to talk about the pluralism in Indian faith, to talk about that this is such a vast system of intellect and wisdom. And even those who are left behind, they are giving us more wisdom than people who are leading us.
That's amazing. So that just takes me back to Asma. Asma, you and I have chatted, and we've talked about being the second daughters. I'm a second daughter as well. The way I see you from the time I have followed you and from spending those few days with you in New York in September. You're not just an amazing cook, but you're someone that is so powerful and such a big believer in women and social justice.
True.
I don't want to say anything more because I will not do justice to saying anything. I want you to share with us, because your food and what you do in your kitchen is not about food. It's about this bigger picture that you have. And like you said, I may not reap what I'm sowing, but I know it's going to make a change, and I'm setting the stage for changes for the future. Can you please enlighten everyone that's listening to you today to hear this, because this is so important for all of us?
Thank you. Yes, I think that, for me, I'm driven by the legacy. I'm very aware that, there are so few of us who have space on the stage. And now that the spotlight hits me, what I see in front of me are rows of women, like this lovely 96-year-old student, those who will never get their chance unless someone comes and tells their story, to come on stage. So I'm very conscious, and every day I live one day less. That is what drives me. I know my time is limited. And, I want to be able to leave a legacy that even in my death, when I am no longer there, I want a woman to walk into a room and say my name and say the name of Darjeeling Express, so that a home cook, someone who people see as not professional, can give our example. Because at this moment, at the level that we are, the price point that we are the only Indian restaurant with an all-female kitchen in the world, where people pay £100 to eat. So, you have, destitute women working in Nizamuddin and Suruchi in Calcutta, which is a lovely restaurant run by women. But at this level, this is just personifies this muhavra we have in Hindi, which is ghar ki murgi dal barabar. The chicken that is cooked at home is on the same level as dal. We are not talking about chicken and dal. We're talking about me, my hands, a home cook, the healer and nourisher of generations, the grandmothers, the nanis and dadis who have embraced us. And somehow we are not seen as professional. No one will pay us for our roti. No one will hire us. And it is all the men who take over, which I do not resent. I think the stage is so big. Spread it out, spread it out. Let us all be on there. Let us all be something. I have a kitchen of complete home cooks. Half of them are not educated. They never went to school. They come from very, very deprived, very tough backgrounds. And the average age of the woman cooking in my kitchen is 50. And this, in our culture, and actually in the West too, this is the autumn of our lives. We're 50, we're of no use. You're not seen, the moment you hit 40, you're not seen as dynamic and interesting, and no one's going to give you a lease, no one's going to insure you, no one's going to, bank on you, no investor will give you money. Suddenly, we don't count. But anyone who knows cricket knows this. There are two innings. This is my second innings. I will hit every ball out of the park. I'm going to win with my team of women. So this is what drives me. I'm driven, it's never about me. It's never about me, because I want to highlight the stories of all the women around me. And, as you said, I say this all the time. I am sowing the harvest. I am never going to see. I will never reap this harvest. I feel the breath of young girls who will come on stage, who will take over from Vikas, from me, from you, who will get on there. They will have our names. They will have our stories. I feel a responsibility because, after Chef's Table, I could have opened Darjeeling Express on the moon. People came to me with all kinds of offers. I do not endorse a single produce or product. I don't do any ads. I don't do anything. I just spend my time talking to people. Because what I want to do is I want to light the fire in them. I want to look I want them to see me, my body shape, my age, in my accented voice, in my Muslim name. I want you to see that as an immigrant, and this is the book that Vikas has written, Sacred Foods. Our food is sacred. We don't consume like people consume in the West. For us, food is not about consumption. Food is sacred. We are blessed when we eat. And I think that we need to understand this. So when people criticize, our food, kids get picked on the playground saying, oh, your food is smelly, oh, you smelly this. And, they pick us because they downgrade our food. Indian food is not considered as elevated, as sophisticated as, say, French food or Spanish food. When I wanted to have a 95-pound menu, people said, are you mad? Who's going to pay 95 pounds for, luchi, aloo dum, and kofta? They did. We were sold out completely. I want you to honor me, pay for my food, and acknowledge the fact that our cuisine is so deep. I mean, and I'm sure that Vikas's food will reflect that. It is so intrinsic to our livelihood. For us, food is in my DNA. It's in my bloodline. The food I've eaten, death, birth, marriages, is all about the sacredness of food. And then when you separate my food and culture, you take my food, you don't want to have anything to do with me. You tell me to go back home, you call my children names, you call other kids names. I will not let you eat my food. We don't eat our food without that basic respect of what that is in front of us. We know it's a blessing in front of us. But in the West, you find that the presumption is our food is cheap and cheerful. Our food is not sophisticated. It's a place where you go to, after having drunk a lot, after a hangover, you go and have a curry. No, you don't. You honor us. You pay for our food. You listen to our stories. Otherwise, you don't eat our food. Because food is part of who we are. And the separation is where we are damaged. And this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring the stories together through storytelling. And this is what Vikas does with his films. We want to show the richness behind the food. So you just don't take my food and walk off. That is the easiest thing to do. And this allows you to disrespect me. And that's unacceptable.
Completely.
Wow.
And
I love you. I love
I
you.
don't
I
even
love
know
you. I
what to
love you.
say.
Oh,
I
it's
don't
so
even know
sweet,
what to
because
say, because it's so true and it's so important for all of us to
It's,
put
I
that
got
forth. I have
goosebumps
no
as she was
words. I have
talking.
no
Yeah.
words right now,
My
because
heart is pounding. I'm like, wow.
that is not just khana. It's everything to us. It's
Yeah.
everything to us. Because people see you as a Michelin star chef. When I see you, I see a creative humanitarian. That's what I see. That also happens to be a chef, that has a platform of a chef. But the more I have watched you over the years, I have seen you take that platform where people wanted to know you as a chef, and you have made it more than that. You are now doing such amazing film. You're writing such great books. Um, the biggest story that sits with me, and especially because it's so personal, is during COVID. When you made things happen sitting in your New York apartment for people in India that couldn't get to so much, and you mobilized so much. What we saw was just the surface of what you showed us. Um, I know people in India felt it and they got to experience it, but I want you to tell us about how this came about and how you, whether you felt the power that you had at that point to use it for making a difference to people that couldn't do it and didn't have a voice.
I was very broken at that time because I was taking care of my sister at that time. She was not well. So I was feeling कि किसी की दुआ तो लगेगी मुझे, मेरी बहन को. Actually, I'll be totally selfish, totally selfish. But it started from a spam email which came to me saying that, India is going through lockdown soon and nobody's going to be, it was the end of March. So, as chef, you're a part of so many foundations of old age homes and orphanages and leprosy centers. Those are three things which are very close to my heart. And for the last maybe 15, 20 years, I've been supporting those. But that was a spam email. But at the time, it just broke my heart. And I said, yeah, there's going to be a deficit of food, of resources. We need to find something more substantial. 11th May, I called my mom because I lost a big truck of ration in near Bangalore. And I called my mom. I said, Mom, I can't do this. Because she saw me, I was trying to do something with Feed India. So she said that, why can't you do it? I said, Mom, it's very difficult. I'm on WhatsApp. I have way too much work on my table. I release 4 books a year and I do 2 TV shows. I write movies. I do my own restaurants. And, it's a big toll and I do everything personally. And she's saying, it's okay, then just give up. That's great. And just remember that when you receive the Michelin star, 1.3 billion people cheered for you. When that chef in New York wanted to cut off your hands, we all cried when you told us. You learned everything from our streets. You learned everything from our homes. You served 4 presidents in US because of us. And today when we want you, you don't have any time for us. You think, it's never going to be one-way road. She just was so important in my life to set up my moral compass at that time, It really broke my heart when my mom said that, failing is okay, but giving up is not okay. It's not a DNA for us. But today you're in a position of privilege. You can guide, mobilize things around the world. You've got to do that. And you got to Feed India. And that's how the name Feed India came on April 11th. So April 11th was the day, and we fed more than 80 million meals during the time. The biggest strength came from Barkha. I'm talking to Barkha. Barkha Dutt's interview. She's walking on a highway, and there's a big petrol pump, a gas station we call it in America. There's a big gas station behind her, and she's talking about the migrant workers. I'm watching her interview. I don't know why it popped on my social media. And I said, oh my God, what if I convert all these gas stations into food stations? And within 33 hours, we had more than 80 gas stations which were serving khichdi. They were giving sanitary pads, they had slippers, and they had bags of food which were being handed over to people. So wherever they're going home, they can cook that. Within 30 some hours, we had figured that out. But I lost my voice, couldn't talk, but I felt that there was so much of energy of people who felt my transparency. And then the New York Times did the cover story, and that is when the sponsors started coming in. I have never seen anything so powerful in my life hit me like that. Never. Everything else which happened in my life was very small, a molecule as compared to this, where my sister watched a girl standing in the line. Asma, if you remember, there were sometimes we were serving food and there were lines of people, like 3,000 people in the line, and you are coordinating that from New York, right? And my sister sees this and she says, oh my God, wo ladki ke pair mein chappal nahi hai. She does this. My sister just said that to me. A little girl was standing and taking food for her family. Uski chappal nahi hai. And it was getting very hot at that time, right? You're getting into summer, May and all. I just started calling, no shame, nothing. I called Nike, all the big brands I know, because I've worked with them. So I'm calling everyone. They said, okay, how many you want? I said 100,000. I need sanitary pads. I need this. I never saw people coming together more than anything of a nation or heads of the states. The way people supported at that time, and they were looking for some leadership at that time. So you just became an instrument at that time. And it really crushes my heart to see that I was a little part of that statement, of that equation. Because as a chef, if hunger doesn't move you, then nothing would. Nothing can break your heart like hunger. It breaks you, it inspires you, it also teaches you so much more than being full stomach.
So true. I always feel that the biggest thing for you chefs is if you can cook and you can feed, and then you see people that can't even eat the basics, it's like, no, this doesn't work. And how dare we allow that to happen? And that's how I feel, is how dare we? Because that's, like we said, it's about your soul being complete and your soul being nourished. um Asma, Netflix and Chef's Table, wow, the first British chef to be featured on it. um
Yeah,
I know
who
you and I have talked about this a little bit. I distinctly sat there and heard you, at our breakfast that we shared together, tell me about this. I want you to share with all of us how this recognition that came and changed so much. Um, how did that experience change you? I'm not going to say change you as a person, but change your thought process of what it brought to your table. Um, you're still you, and you will always be you, and that's the grace of you. But what did it allow you? What did it afford you that you got from that recognition? And what did you do with it to take on the social justice and to everything else that you do?
It was, I mean, unexpected. I had not even seen a single episode of Chef's Table when they approached me. I first thought it was spam, and then I discovered that no, these are real people, and I got back in touch
You
with
see, we
them.
have a connection of spam here between the two of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, because I
That's
thought the next thing
good.
they would say, can we have all your money or your bank details? They said we'd love to feature you. And I was like, these guys, why would they come and want to see me? I'm like, in Britain they never had another chef who they'd featured. But yeah, so that's why I thought was someone was just trying to take the mickey out of me. But I the first thing I asked them is I don't want to be scripted. I want to tell my story the way I speak. I told them that, in my voice, I am the voice of every woman who has been sidelined. I'm the voice of every woman unloved, uncelebrated, whose food was taken for granted, who in our culture, men eat first, women eat last, girls eat least. I've come from that kind of culture, which is true for many agrarian cultures. In Colombia, in Mexico, in Ireland, you will find this tradition of the men being served first. It's across the board. But I just felt that I have now a opportunity to talk about justice and to talk about fairness, because the other thing is that I am not, running an equal race to other people. And this is where the misconception comes from. Do not compare my race to a white man's race. He's not jumping hurdles. Do not compare my race to a white woman's race, because she's also not jumping the hurdles I have to jump with my cultural baggage. Some of it is my own, which I have internalized, my own things that I'm carrying. But which I've said before, I'm still going to win. I'm going to win because I'm driven by I that great desire, not for what is in the present. I first do my salam to the women in their graves, to the women who are not here anymore. I want them to know I speak for them. I want the world to know I stand here proud. I'm held up by their strength, even though they're not here. It was an opportunity for me to celebrate all the women in my culture. I walk around my house, family home. I see all those old portraits, hardly any of any women. Why is it only the men who are up on the walls? What about the women? Where are they? I go and pray Fatiha to all the female graves when I go back to my family graveyard, because I don't know them, but I feel they know I came. I feel they know my name. And this is why this was so important for me to use this platform to talk about justice and fairness. And I'm saying this repeatedly to the British government. Teach the empire so that kids are not asked, go back home. Where do you come from? First, you tell us why you were in our country for so long. I want these questions to be addressed, because unless you understand history, you cannot understand the situation today. And you must understand that the wealth, especially in England, was built on the blood of my people and on slavery and colonialism. And women suffered disproportionately. I'm from Bengal. This was where the Great Famine happened. And it is an opportunity really to see this stage as a rally call, as a battle cry for all women. Because if you are no longer here, I speak for you. I speak for women who are about to come after me. I will keep speaking till my last hour. And then when I die, I will still fight. Because it is absolutely unacceptable that I am seen as a lesser being, that I'm seen as not equal. And I will not die till that changes. I need to see the change in my lifetime and inshallah after as well. I want to know that the girls after me will walk with their head up high.
Oh, they will. They will. With mentors and with examples like you guys that are opening, and I don't say this lightly. This is a big responsibility that you carry because you have such an amazing platform where people want a piece of you, want to be a part of you, and you both don't take that lightly. You're very conscious of where you stand and why you stand there, and that this journey is not just your journey. You are taking us all with you. And I think that is, it's not going to go, by the wayside. It is going to hold a lot of weight and a lot of space for so many people to come. And for that, I am so grateful and thankful to both of you because it is what needs to be done. We've talked such serious stuff. Now, can we just? I'm gonna throw questions at you guys, and I wanna just. I think we all are curious to know a little bit more about you guys and where you come from. Food, always food, always food. What is the meal that each one of you would say is what reminds you of home? That if you had to say ghar ka khana, what would it be that you would eat or want to eat or desire to have as your meal? Asma, let me start with you to ask you, what is your basic go-to childhood memory, adult memory that makes you feel like a child, that gives you life, that makes you feel happy? What would it be? What would that meal look like?
Well, the meal would have to have paratha, because for me, that makes my life complete. So paratha, but with rizala, because, rizala is a distinctively Muslim Bengali dish. And that is, and the rizala made in my house is just unbelievable. So rizala and paratha for me is absolutely my childhood favorite, my favorite now, and my favorite forever.
Awesome. Vikas, you?
Banaras. I think Banaras ki kachori. There's a chachi ki kachori outside BHU. I think it heals me, it recharges me, reboots me. The city gives me something which I cannot explain. It's beyond words. I'm not as vocal and vocabulary filled brain like Asma, but all I can say is मेरे को रज देता है. रज एक बड़ा वर्ड है, उसमें बड़ी बरकत है उस कचौड़ी में, क्योंकि वो हमेशा मेरे साथ ही रहती है, उसके बाद छोड़ती नहीं मेरे को वो. I think it also inspires me like nothing. No other city in the world inspires me like Banaras.
There's just something about the sanctity of being there, right? Of it just being so pure and calming, and I almost want to say simple and real.
Yeah,
and then you
death
add
is
khana
the
to it.
ultimate answer.
Yeah, It's just real. It's who we are. It's what we all should aspire to be. It's
I think
simple and clear and real.
city makes you feel extremely minute, minuscule in the space of time. The city tells you that you are so tiny and you're gone. It's just so much in front of you that you respect that moment of living in it, the gratitude of it. So every time
That's
I'm
awesome.
crushed, I go and find peace in that kachori.
Oh, that's beautiful. Asma and I are going to hold you to it that one of these days you're going to take us with you to experience that. Um, I
Yeah.
have a final question. Um, any new projects that we can know about?
Well,
Asma?
I will say first because I'm going to open my new restaurant. Ta-da!
Yes! Yes, I'm coming to
Yes, so
London.
fine. Yes, please come to London. I'm opening in January. I am building the restaurant, and I'm going to build the kitchen in the middle of the restaurant. So this is
Wow.
costing me money that I don't even have. The build cost has gone up by 150,000, but I don't care because it is like when you set the most perfect gem, you have to have the right setting. They're in the middle of the restaurant. I'm building the restaurant around them. I want everyone to see the hands that are cooking. So this is my great project. I'm somehow going to finance it because things have gone crazy in England. But it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time, and I'm optimistic because for me, I know one thing that as a team we're all going to win. Right now we're going through a difficult time, because we're having to build the restaurant. So that's my new thing coming up.
Awesome. Vikas, do you have anything that you would love to share?
I have a beautiful restaurant coming up in New York.
Nice.
Um,
Ah,
so I'm focusing more on Asia this time. But Asia, when I say, I mean the countries which really touch my heart, from Cambodia to Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, Burma, Vietnam, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, because I feel that this is time we give them due credit for their individual cooking or the dishes they brought and which were not stolen by bigger cultures. So मुझे लगता है कि एक not stolen, like we made those dishes so famous, but we forgot the origins were in these small countries. Yeah, you'll see it once I'm back in March. You will see something amazing, and I promise to do my honest work to represent those cultures. It's half of the planet.
Thank you. Thank you both so much, so much. Um, Personally, thank you for indulging me. Thank you for giving me the space to have these conversations with you guys. Tremendous respect, tremendous love coming out to both of you. And
Likewise.
I know a lot of people are going to be so happy we had these conversations. And for that, I thank you both.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Asma. Thank you, Barka. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for participating in our literary festival. Please don't forget to join us this weekend, November 12th and 13th, at the Calum Gallery in New York City for our in-person literary festival. Thank you. As the Literary Festival Director for IAAC, I would like to thank you for joining our award-winning authors. IAAC is a not-for-profit, a 501c not-for-profit located in New York City. The program that you just watched was made possible by the generous donation of viewers like yourself. Your donation enables us to support artists and sustain programs that you enjoy. Please visit our website, iaac.us, to make a donation, and here you will also find information on your membership benefits. On behalf of the board and team at IAAC, I would like to thank you for your support and look forward to seeing you at our next event.